Hi, my name is Connie Graf Lewis and I'm from Chaos to Peace Consulting, and today I would like to talk with you about the different kinds of clutter. Most people only think of physical clutter when they hear the word clutter, like their messy house, the chaotic closet, the garage that is filled to the brim, mostly physical things, and they don't realize that there is different kinds of clutter, different levels of clutter, if you want to call it that way, just different kinds of clutter. So there's not just physical clutter, but there is also digital clutter now, of course, since we have computers, cell phones, iPads, cloud storage. There is mental clutter, social clutter, emotional clutter, and even spiritual clutter. Although I'm not going to go into spiritual clutter today, this is a whole different ballgame. I stick with the other five. And so that's what I wanted to talk with you about today, because I have a clutter clearing challenge coming up in February. It starts February 1st, called Decluttering is Self-Love, and we go into all these different kinds of clutter, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview what these different kinds of clutters are, so that you get an idea of what we are going to talk about. So in her book Clear Your Clutter with Feng Shui, Karen Kingston says there is 4 categories of clutter, and I'm going to read this so I say it right. So the first one is things you don't love or use. The second one is things that are untidy or disorganized, too many things in too small a space, and anything unfinished. So these are the 4 categories of clutter, and most people don't even think that far. But now if we do these, if we ask what is, for example, in the mental space, something that is unfinished, or if we go into the emotional space and ask, okay, what is untidy or disorganized there, we come up with all kinds of clutter that you might have never thought about. So let's go ahead. I made some notes so that I stay on track and don't just babble something here. Let's see here. Let's go with the first category, things you don't use or love. In the physical space, this is pretty self-explanatory. That's what we're all thinking about right away when we hear clutter. The chaos in your house, the garage filled that no car has space or room in it to be parked, all kinds of stuff. The digital clutter is probably pretty self-explanatory too. You have all kinds of files or even digital photos and all kinds of stuff that you really don't care for, and you just have them there sitting there because you didn't delete them, and now they're clogging up all your storage space. Make your computer slower, make your cell phone slower. So this is the digital clutter. The mental clutter, could you think of something that is that you don't use or don't love in your mental space? What I came up is old ideas that have nothing to do anymore with your current life or how you are today, but they're kind of still hanging there from, they could be from your childhood, they could be from growing up, teenager, whatever. You don't really love or use them anymore, but they're still hanging there and they're kind of still controlling you. Then social clutter. I came up with old friends that you have nothing in common with, but you kind of still feel obligated to go and spend time with them, even though you don't really feel like it. Or new friends that drain your energy. We all know these vampire type people who actually really just drain your energy until you, and instead of being all inspired and happy to coming home from meeting them, you're just drained and you could just crawl into bed and never come out anymore. And then we have emotional clutter. What emotional clutter you don't use or love? Well, here it could be hanging on to anger and frustration, or staying in victim mode without working through it and letting it go and moving on. Like this little stuff that aggravates us every day. Instead of letting it go, you hang on to it and it just clutters up, and you actually don't love to be in this state, but you don't let go of it. So this was the first category for all these different kinds of clutter. Now let's talk about the second category, things that are untidy and disorganized. In the physical space, this is also, again, the first thing that people would think about for untidy and disorganized. So even if you don't have clutter at home that you don't love or don't use, even if you use everything and you love everything, if it's just disorganized and in a jumble and a big chaos, it's still kind of cluttered. No, your house feels cluttered, the room feels cluttered, it's chaotic. Digital clutter is probably pretty self-explanatory too. It's just you have no structure in your files where you save it. You just save it wherever it comes, and it's all unorganized and a big mess and a big jumble. With the mental clutter, it gets a little bit more confusing, so you have to think a little bit longer. But what I came up with was, for example, bad habits, and too much information that you just aimlessly consume. That clogs up your brain, and then you never think about it, whether you really need this stuff or not, or you don't even think about before you read it, listen to it, whether this is even anything you need to know in your life. The social clutter, I would say this is when you don't know, like we're in the category of untidy and disorganized. So with the social clutter, I would say these are when you don't have your priorities set straight. So which people are, for the social life, which people are important to you, which people you want to really spend time with. It's important to know that, because otherwise you're agreeing and saying yes to people that you don't care that much for, and then you have no time and no energy left for the people that you actually really want to spend time with, and that you care for. So I'm not saying you have to categorize and sort your social environment into strict little boxes, but it's probably a good idea to think about which friends outside of your family have higher priorities and which ones have lower priorities, and so you know more right away whether you want to say yes or no to something that they propose, or whether it's even worth your time, or if it's just clogging up your time and energy. And then the emotional clutter is you have no routines or practices on a regular basis to sort through your emotions and to actually make sense of them. We're not taught to pay attention to our emotions, and we're definitely not taught to put them into perspective. So this can create a big problem in you, and it's a form of clutter. So then when we get into the third category of Karen Kingston's, how she defines clutter is too many things in too small a space, which is also kind of self-explanatory again in the physical space. So it's when your house is too small for all the stuff you have, and you really, really, really love all the stuff and you really use all the stuff, but it's just too small because you're outgrown it, possibly because you got married and now your husband or your wife lives with you. Before it was a bachelor space, or you created a family, now you have children, and it just becomes too small. Or it was too small from the beginning. With the digital clutter, too small a space is the same. Like your storage space is just not big enough. You need more, but you don't do it. And so you can't really save anything because you have no room, which can be dangerous because it could all collapse and you could use all your data. So the mental clutter I came up with, you overwhelm your brain with too much information in too short of a time. Like it's like you fill your brain and this and that, and everything is important, and you just pack it all in, and you don't give your brain any time to process it. And then it just becomes a jungle, and nothing makes sense anymore. And with the social clutter, too many things in too small a space is when you have too many commitments and too much stuff going on. during the day, during the week, during the month, and you're just running from one end to the other, and you have no agency, how some people say, or you have no breathing room in between. And that wears you out completely and makes you ornery and frustrated and exhausted, and not a nice feeling at all. And then that leads us right away into the emotional clutter, which where you try to suppress these emotions, and then and because you don't process them, and because you don't change anything in your life, you suppress them, and in the end you have no room anymore, and it's just kind of like explodes like a pressure cooker. You explode, and you possibly explode in the wrong situation, to the wrong people. Oftentimes we explode to the people we love the most, and it has nothing to do with them really, but they are the ones that take the broadside of it. And then the last category of Karen Kingston's clutter categories is anything unfinished, which is often, even in the physical clutter space, a surprise for a lot of people. But so anything finished is all kinds of little repairs or maintenance jobs that you have around your house that you never do, or buttons that you need to sew back on that fell off your clothes, or a leaking tap in a house. all this kind of little stuff that you just don't do, or bigger projects that you never completely finished. In the digital space, I would say it's all kinds of ebooks, e-courses that you bought and you started but never finished, or you have a whole inbox full of unread emails, or you started reading emails, or you have newsletters that you started reading and never finished reading, and they clog up your inbox, your computer, your storage space, your digital storage space. With mental clutter, I would say it's opinions that you haven't formed yet, like, or decisions that you haven't done. Like there is a decision that needs to be made, and you're just not making it. You're procrastinating for whatever reason. That's unfinished business. Clogs up your brain, makes you heavy. The social clutter is the first thing that comes to my mind is kind of friends and family that you had an argument with and you never resolved it, and now it's kind of like weird between you, or you might, even worse, you might not even talk with each other. That's unfinished business, which clutters up your life. And then the emotional clutter is kind of the result that comes out of all of this. So disappointments that you haven't processed, grief that you haven't worked through, and yeah, all this emotion that comes out of the mental and social clutter and from your environment that just builds up and ends up in your emotions. So if you are surprised by my list and what all I declare as clutter, then and you would be interested to learn more, then why don't you sign up for my decluttering challenge coming up in February. It's called Decluttering is Self-Love. And what better month than February to do that, because February is the month of love. So that's why we're doing it in February. And that is Vicky McLeod and we joined forces. And so it starts on February 1st. The first week is going to be household clutter. The second week, paperwork. And if you have a business clutter. The third week, digital clutter. And the fourth week is all about mental, social, and emotional clutter. So sign up below. And you get an invitation into our private Facebook group. People are already decluttering there. And we're exchanging experiences and tips and tricks and everything. So sign up below again. And I see you inside. Bye. Connie Graf Lewis from Chaos to Peace.